We are live in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm Tavis Cornel West. And this is the final stop, again, on our four-state poverty 2.0 tour. We went out last year, in case you just tuned in, went out last year to 9 states, 18 cities. Earlier this year, another 20 cities on our book tour for the rich and the rest of us talking about poverty. Now, we are in West Palm Beach, Florida. The last stop on this swing state tour of Ohio and Virginia, Pennsylvania, and we wrap in Florida. Before the break, Mr. Callaway was making the point, and I can't be as profound as he was, but making the point that people want to work, that people need to work, that people should work, that there is dignity in work. Dr. West and I agree with all that. The question is, what happens when there isn't enough work? What happens when political indifference and corporate greed, multinational companies, making more money here, shipping more jobs abroad? I don't believe that people ought to depend on government looking for a handout either. But the question, State Representative Pafford, is what do we do when the government doesn't step up to the plate and engage its role in making sure that Americans have the means to exercise their gifts? I mean, Mr. Callaway was talking about Dr. King, and I regard Dr. King, as does Dr. West. We regard Dr. King as the greatest American this country has ever produced. Dr. King, to my mind, is the greatest American this country has ever produced. But that march on Washington wasn't just about protesting about civil rights, it was about jobs, and freedom, and peace. So Dr. King wanted people to have access to good jobs, not minimum wage, but living wage jobs. So Mr. Callaway's come, Doc and I agree with that wholeheartedly. The question again is, what do you do when people want to work? There are millions of Americans right now who would do anything to find a job. So many of them unemployed and underemployed. It's not a matter of people not wanting to work. So many right now don't have the opportunity to work.
Well, and if I could add to that, it's also the type of work. You know, in this state, you can be providing the most intimate type of care in a skilled nursing facility, in an ALF, and your wage is the same as somebody who handed you the cup of coffee at McDonald's. And so, you know, it's a very complex type of issue, but the first thing you do is you find some ability to lead and talk about industries that are going to provide that type of base for economic industry. You know, this state, unfortunately, it rests too often on the fact that we have beaches. And we you know, the hotel management I'm sorry, the industries, tourism, sure, they are a big thing. But you know, we've grown. We've got 19 million people in the state, and we've got to begin being creative and allowing people to understand and know that quality of life that they earn, so they can enjoy their lives rather than struggle, which is what we're seeing. And right now, again, you know, there is no leadership. There is, I said during the break, nobody talks about the poor. Nobody talks about the poor, and it's a tragedy, and we're losing people. Not only out of state, but we're losing people. We're losing generations of people because we're not investing, there's nothing wrong with that, investing in people. And until we do that, unfortunately, there'll probably be a poverty tour 3.0, but you'll have the support, and hopefully everybody here will go home and share the importance of being involved. Without you, we're no good. You direct everything about who we are as a society, and you have to take control.
Brother Ben says that we no longer are our brothers and sisters keeper the way in which we were in the past. In the past, even if we were poor, we grew up in neighborhoods where there was love and concern. Who is the something else? Drugs, violence, bullets, unemployment, dilapidated housing, school systems that are not up to the grade relative to the precious children they serve. How do we account for that? There's that shift. It's a downward shift. It's a decline in terms of what we had in the past, but we cared much more for one another, Sister Martha. I'm directed to, I was using your point, Brother Ben, but I'm directed to Sister Monica because she's an example of somebody who cares.
Well, I think what we need to do in terms of in terms of looking outside. We need to look outside and make others accountable, but we also need to look at ourselves, those of us who are in positions to help young people that we know need jobs. Then we need to look out for them. We need to make sure that they have the education they need, that they are prepared, and when they come back to our area and we're in a position to help them, then we need to say, you know what, that's just Miller's boy. He just got back in town. He graduated with a degree in business, and I'm over here in this position where I can help Ms. Miller's boy get a job. So I need to be calling Ms. Miller's boy, saying, Ms. Miller's boy, this position is available. I need to see your application come across my desk, and these are the things that you need. We need to start looking out for our own. Yes, there's some things that are happening that we have no control over. But those of us who do have position, those of us who do have some influence, those of us who do have some authority, we need to look out for our own. Now, am I saying that you give them a handout? No. You don't give them a job to be a mathematician if they don't know how to do math. But if you know Ms. Miller's boy knows how to do math, and then he graduated and he has a degree and he's coming back and looking for a job, we need to look out for Ms. Miller's boy and let him know that he's his hands need to pulled up. He needs to have on a suit and a tie. He needs to speak correct English, not the text language that he has on the phone. And he needs to present himself so that when we're sitting on the panel and we're looking at Ms. Miller's boy, we can give a nod and be okay with it.
One of the things that you see here in West Palm Beach, and this is not the Casper, on West Palm. I love West Palm. I come from a community where the same thing is true. And so many people of color and others in this country understand this on the reservation, in white communities, in Hispanic communities. So much of what America wrestles with is not just poverty, but generational poverty. It'd be one thing if one generation had to wrestle with this and we can move beyond it. But in so many of our families, and I know this is the case here in West Palm, I've seen the data, so much of this is not just poverty, it's generational poverty. I want to ask you about this because you've been at this for 51 years, working on these kinds of issues, particularly where young people are concerned. But what say you about the fact that we are burdened by what is generational poverty in our community? Go on.
Well, one of the things, before I answer that, about the jobs, Florida is a state that depends on tourism and building, the construction trade. When people get big contracts from the government, local government, they allow people to import people under wages from out of the country or wherever. I'm not against immigration, but you can't take the job from the local people. They should be the first people in line to get the job. See, this is what happened when people in the labor movement, you got the local people fighting hard because they won't work for under wages when you bring in other people who will work under wages because there's much more money than maybe in their country. And that's not fair. But the generation of poverty is, babies having babies is the worst thing ever. It's decimated our society because they can't teach the baby because they're only a baby. And so when a grandmother in Stony Brook 3 months ago had a 3-year-old daughter and she's only 32 years of age, that's tough. That's really tough. Because she had a baby at 14, her baby, it was 14, had a baby now at 32. She has a 3-year-old granddaughter. We have to stop that. We have to educate the masses that you need to be able to be mature enough to have children. Children going, taking care of children is the worst thing you got. And then it's a cycle. If I'm on housing, and I don't have anything against housing, but you need to work hard to get off housing. Those are the things that really just destroy and cause a lot of criminal activity. Because all at once you get a complex, thinking that nobody cares for you, and then you go to the games, and the games love each other and support each other, and now you go out and do dumb things. We have to break the cycle. And the only way we're going to break the cycle, we all going to have to join hands and say enough is enough. Amen. We have to stand up. It's only 8 to 10% of the people are bad, but 90% of the people sit on the sidelines, so when you do it or he'll do it or something like that, we all must do it. Simple as that.
Brother Patrick, I hear Mr. Calloway and I agree again that at some point people, particularly poor people, have got to say enough is enough. As an elected official, you understand this perhaps better than anybody in the room. And that is that it's one thing for folks to be fed up with conditions. It's another thing for them to mobilize, to organize. We have to beg people to vote. That is the most precious right we have. We have to beg them to vote. So as an elected official, what say you about, the juxtaposition of being sick and tired of what we have to deal with, but not getting to the point of organizing and mobilizing? And I don't think that voting is the answer to everything. It's just one example of how you have to beg people even to do that. I was glad to hear Monica say that they had, more people who wanted to get in today that can be fully accommodated. That's a beautiful thing to see young people thirsty for hunger, thirsty for knowledge, hungry for empowerment. I love that. But what about those persons, which is quite frankly the majority of Americans, who are fed up with a whole lot of conditions, poverty being one of them, but don't ever get around to doing anything about it?
Yeah, and I think some of that lies in the fact that we've allowed our corporations to have so much control and so much influence, and everybody's seen it, they're either getting it in the mail or on television. And what you have to understand, and hopefully that majority out there that is going to make the difference, because it will be them, understands that the first flag that anybody should be aware of is when something says paid political advertisement, paid for and approved by the guy that gave it to you. That's a dangerous type of activity. When you compound that with billions of dollars, you are looking at corporations that are persuading you to vote against yourself. No matter how many dollars are out there, at the end of the day, we all are going to have a certain period to engage in our destiny, in our future that affects us, that investment of people, of money, and investment in society. And at the end of the day, it really is up to you to understand who is going to support you and who is not going to support you. And it's beyond a piece of paper or a television ad. It actually means engaging in a discussion with people that you trust and doing your homework and educating yourselves about people who say they're supporting you, but every single moment of their political life, they're voting against you. And unfortunately, I think it really begins to mobilize when it hurts people most. And unfortunately, that's in their pocketbook. And I think now is the moment we must embrace our future, get involved. As Mr. Calloway said, let's get educated. And there's no one in this room that's attending and being part of this that should not be involved. It is your obligation and responsibility to help all of us. As individuals, you can make that difference.
I know that President Young folk just walked in with the drums, and I think it's very important to acknowledge that the drum not only comes from Africa, but the drum was banned against black people on the slave ships and on the plantations.
That's right.
Because those drums were a form of lifting one's voice and encouraging each other and being able to relate in harmony to something bigger than you.
That's right.
We're talking about fighting for justice. Brother Mark talks about fighting for justice against big money, fighting for justice against racism. It should be against sexism. It should be against anti-Semitism, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim sensibility. He drums every time you play the drum. That's connected to your history. Oh, that's what this brother understood. Give a hand to the teacher who teaches about this. So then you can straighten your back up and love each other. Not just black people, everybody. But you don't want black folk affirming who you are and connecting you to a human family in this regard. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why we have this music connected to this dialogue.
I got a minute. I want to give Monica 30 seconds, Mr. Calloway 30 seconds literally, so I can get this break right on time. But I'm curious to start with you, Monica, as to what makes you hopeful. I love everything that Doc just laid out, and what he reminds us of is that we have survived more difficult times. As tough as these times are, that drum that he just talked about reminds us that we've got to work. But given what we're up against, and what you see you're meeting with every year, you and your AK solo, what makes you hopeful every year that you do this program?
What makes us hopeful is when we have to make tough decisions because we have so many students with 3.0 that look like us applying for our scholarship. And we've given over $300,000 in scholarship over the last 55 years. What makes us hopeful is when you have a 20 pro that's in your high school mentoring group, you've had her since the 9th grade, and she's had a 4.0 cumulative GPA from the 9th grade, and she's in the 11th grade. What makes us hopeful is when you're tired, you don't want to be bothered, and you get that call and say, well, Miss Monty, can we do X, Y, Z today? And that gives you what you need to just go forward. So I think the young people for us are those that give us hope in terms of knowing that we need to stay the course to do what we need to do to make sure that they do what they do.
Mr. Calloway, I got 30 seconds to right here. What makes you hopeful? After all we did, you did it.
Well, I had the privilege to be taught by some great teachers at Roosevelt and the Palmview, whatever, even in Washington Junior High School. Because my teachers were surrogate parents. They were more than just teachers. They taught us life. And the subject was McDonald still teaching me. And I'm 74. I think that it's imperative that we all become leaders and doers and rather be complainers than followers.
Dan Calloway, thank you, please. Thank you. And Monica, before we especially thank you, DK. You're listening to the Tavis and Dr. from West Palm Beach, Florida, brought to you by Pacifica and Native Voice Law.